Oh, we're going to be having some fun today. So, I was thinking about Brightcore, Sunbeam, and breakpoints in Fortnite. I got a comment long ago that made me think about it even more. Somebody suggested that he was using a Brightcore Xenon bow with more effectiveness than Sunbeam based on a couple of things. So, I have a whole video on Sunbeam versus Brightcore. I'll link this down below. It's a good watch because ultimately speaking, Sunbeam tends to be the better option 99% of the time. That video does explain some edge cases. However, I will give you a quick rundown if you haven't seen that video. Basically, I'm going to switch to my other screen here. You're going to see chat on screen. I record these on Twitch, link down below. If you ever want to be part of the recording of these videos, you can check that out. But essentially the difference is Sunbeam makes weapons do 20% more than normal. In fact, when you upgrade a weapon, it's just copper when you get it. So you upgrade it to silver and then malachite. These are just all ores in the game. So actually, the default way to upgrade something is into obsidian and then Brightcore. That's like the standard weapon configuration. What most weapons will end up with is a 375 durability. They will do 100% of their normal damage, and their fire rate will be absolutely standard. What Sunbeam changes is it makes your durability go to 300 instead of 375. You'll do 20% more damage than normal, but you'll shoot 10% slower. On paper, Sunbeam is the higher damage output. There's really no discussion there. However, what we're discussing today are breakpoints. Now, I'm gonna have to go back to my other screen here because we're on the right side now. What breakpoints are things that exist in all games. I'm a huge Pokemon Go PvP nerd, and there are certain instances where breakpoints matter, where moves in this game can actually do different amounts of damage. I'm actually going to show a very specific example from that game. It doesn't matter if you know nothing about Pokemon, just bear with me here. So Dialga versus Dialga in this game is very specific. These are maxed out Pokemon. Their stats are as high as they will go in every single situation, except that the one on the right here has a 14 out of 15 attack versus a 15 attack. The difference is, in-game, because you can only do a full number amount of damage. There is no 4.5 damage from these Dragon Breath attacks. There is no 4.7. It's either 4 damage or 5. And that's the key difference. You know, your damage is only going up from 14 to 15, but in the game, you will do 5 damage instead of 4. And you can see how many they're spamming here. That's a big difference. So what we're discussing in Fortnite is going from 120,000 damage to 121,000 doesn't always make a difference. The commenter that I was referring to had instances where when he went up against a Smasher or a Zappy Face, the Brightcore copy killed in the same number of shots because, let's be honest, I'm going to be running totally rocking out here and crits with a stacked team. We're going to be doing about millions of damage if we hit a headshot with a crit. And in that instance, you're still going to kill in 1 or 2 shots, whatever it takes, whether it's Brightcore or Sunbeam. And if the Brightcore copy is killing in the same number of shots, you're going to be getting 75 extra durability. That's 20% more. You're going to be shooting 10% faster. So if you miss your shot, which happens, you can realign very quickly. Or even if you hit your shot, you can move on to another target. Now, just to add to this discussion, breakpoints are really complicated. In my example, where you might 2 or 3 shot an enemy, that is really nice and clean. But there are so many factors in the game that apply to your damage that has made me never even consider Brightcore. Like the fact that if you don't play with a consistent team, you'll have varying power levels. You'll have varying enemies with different elements. You've got normal zombies, baby zombies, husky husks, riot huskies, propane, nurses, modifiers like healing death burst, and nurses healing those enemies. You've got different enemies of all different levels, and you might not hit a headshot. You might hit a headshot. There's so many factors in the game where you might just want to use Sunbeam without thinking about it too hard, but today I'm deciding to test it. And then there's more to consider, the fact that Affliction exists. I know I rave about Affliction in every video, but I don't apologize for that because it's awesome. Affliction will do extra damage over time. And weirdly enough, you're kind of wasting your 6 perk. Have you ever thought about doing that before? If you one-shot a target with Sunbeam, that's just 6 seconds of Affliction damage that's not happening. Now, obviously you want to kill the enemies as quick as possible. You don't necessarily want a Flinger to survive 6 extra seconds because then it'll throw a Husky on your base, and you don't want that to happen. But for most enemies, if it's not a Smasher or a Flinger throwing an enemy, most enemies can die in 6 seconds. There are, of course, examples that will survive that, like a Nurse, for example, but most enemies will die over time. So I would like to see what the difference is. Obviously, my primary copy is supercharged. That's not going to be a fair test. So I leveled up 2 copies, and I core reperked my Brightcore copy, got them apples to apples, reload, fire rate, crit rating, crit damage. That's just so you can reload faster, shoot faster, do a normal amount of damage. These are the standard perks that I've always recommended. And our loadout, as mentioned, is totally rocking out. We got Stoneheart Fair in the lead, totally rocking out, Battle Beat Fumble. This is all super standard. I'm going to be glossing over most of this. The one thing I want to mention is that I'm using Locked and Reloaded. Yes, it's a 15% damage bonus when Rio exists. Extraterrestrial Rio can give you 20% if your shields are full, but I don't think my shields are always going to be full, and I want this test to be nice and easy, simple to compare. So let's just hop in game, see how it does, and see if there's any merit to this claim that a Brightcore Xenon bow might be better. All right, game one begins. So this is going to be a two-part video, basically starting off with Sunbeam. Let's just see. Let's just get a gauge, all right? Let's just see how a Sunbeam copy does, the kind of numbers we experience. I kind of want to get a read on, like, okay, we one-shot the fatties and the basic zombies. That has no surprise whatsoever. We should just shoot one of every enemy if possible in both games and just see how they do. This is the big one where I think a lot of discussion is going to arise. Just a smasher, elemental, my terrible my terrible self just jumping off my structure there. I don't think there's any damage drop off for the Xenon bow. I want to make sure I hit a headshot though, so that's also something that's worth considering. I would like to hit a headshot, sir. Hello. Hi. Thank you. Turn towards me. Let's just see what a nice little headshot does. No crit, does not much, and then 635. That might be a number worth remembering. I'm hoping I can keep the same team for next game as well. So yeah, you can see this is sort of how it performs. That's just sort of a baseline. I actually haven't used a Xenon bow in a while, and ironically, I've never shown the Xenon bow as the primary weapon in a Fun 160. The only time I ever used it was a Zenith video, but that was more of a showcase of Zenith rather than the actual Xenon bow. And I say that's ironic because you'd think the first time I ever used a Xenon bow in a Fun 160 video, it would be like showing off how amazing the weapon is, but I don't think anybody needs me to tell them that. I'm fairly certain that the Xenon bow is the most popular weapon in Fortnite Save the World, so I'm just going to be using two 130 copies here to compare and contrast, get a nice baseline, and see how they compare. Oh, of course. You guys ever had this happen where you fail an encampment and then the Mist monsters curiously don't spawn? It's like they're giving you a handicapped version of the encampment. Like, oh, you couldn't beat it the first time. Here you go. Here's an easier way to do it. All right, we got a smasher. Thank you, Asteroid, for bringing it over. Let's see. 1,000,000 damage. Nice and easy. Obviously a crit. I think that was a headshot from behind critting, which is a great baseline. So that's kind of what it's like. And this is also what I'm talking about with Affliction, where, I mean, yeah, I got hit, but you can just stop shooting and, you know, not waste, quote unquote, your 6 perk. All right, we got another smasher and an encampment. I don't want to have this video go on too long, but I do want to get lots and lots of comparison points. Ideally, I would like to have Toy Rockin' Out active just to get a little baseline of how it goes, but I am very flimsy with this build. I didn't mention it earlier, but I've always preferred Blast in the past for consistency, for one, and because I die a lot, and I figured I've gotten better at the game. I can actually survive a Toy Rockin' Out, but apparently I seemingly can't. I should probably put some builds up or something, but we do have fumble footballs here, so I can just get a nice little... That's what I'm talking about, you see? Sunbeam can almost one-shot that enemy. That's kind of what I'm looking for. And obviously, if you had it 144, Brightcore might be capable of nearly one-shotting the enemy or one-shotting the enemy itself. And that's kind of an important distinction, because if Brightcore can do that amount of damage and Affliction can just finish it off, as I said earlier, you'll get faster fire rate, more durability, might be more economic. All right, and the defense has begun. So I, again, don't want these videos to run on too long, so I'm just gonna stay here with you guys as long as we have things to shoot at. I didn't put down any traps, so I won't have Toy Rockin' Out active the whole time, but I think getting Battle Beat active with Stoneheart Farah and the Xenon bow is not exactly a difficult thing. Did that apply twice? That might have just been an enemy next to it, but I saw 2 1 million shot hits there. That is actually kind of cool. That's a lot of damage. I guess I can use this opportunity to talk about breakpoints once again, because there are big damage weapons in the game called shotguns, and I was using shotguns, and they are very strong. You might have noticed the Browbeater is doing millions of damage. I have a video that's recorded but not released of the Ground Pounder with double crit damage doing millions of damage per crit, which is happening a lot. That's a Chrome Husky, so I should probably not waste too much time attacking that thing. I won't be able to kill it with energy in one hit anyway. But those shotguns are doing so much damage that you find yourself in a scenario where you might think that Brightcore might be plenty. You know, like if you're already doing millions of damage per hit on a shotgun that's semi-automatic, reloading instantly with Chaos Agent, you could consider the idea that perhaps Sunbeam is overkill. Like, you could take that unneeded damage, unnecessary damage, swap it to Brightcore, and just get better bonuses, like better durability, better fire rate. And fire rate does translate into more damage being outputted as you are shooting faster, but typically shooting faster for less damage is not what you want, as in those instances, yeah, it's not that great. Now, the Xenon bow is also a fairly low damage bow, so I'm interested. I'm really interested to just try it out today. That's what we're doing here today. This is not a strictly scientific test. I'm interested because this weapon is low damage, so it already kind of struggles against smashers. It really benefits a lot from that Sunbeam damage. But if I can use the Brightcore copy next game, I might be able to actually get a perspective that I've never had before. Obviously, I've never... I guess it's almost embarrassing to admit this. I've never used a Brightcore Xenon bow. I've only ever used Sunbeam. So maybe next game I'll be impressed, just like I was with the boom bow. Link to that video down below. I did not expect that weapon to do nearly as well as it did, but goodness, it really did. In fact, now I'm talking about the boom bow, it's a recent topic in my brain. This video is probably going out way after that one, but as of recording this, I recorded that video like 2 days ago, and that weapon might be better with Zenith. I never expected a bow to be better with any hero other than Pharah, but, you know, Pharah gives area of effect damage to the boom bow, which doesn't need area of effect, and it freezes enemies in place. Oh, so Pharah gives it area of effect that it doesn't need, but Zenith freezes enemies in place, which allows a low damage single target weapon like the Xenon bow or the boom bow to continually attack an enemy over and over. That's all to say that Zenith is cool. Boom bow impressed me, and I'm thinking Brightcore might do the same. So seeing as I ran out of big targets here, I'm gonna pause here and I'll check in when we have something big to shoot at. So we got some fatties to shoot at, and somebody in chat asked how to farm Sunbeam, and I feel like this could be a good time to bring this up actually, because we are comparing Brightcore versus Sunbeam, and a major complaint from new players is that they don't get enough Sunbeam. So if you guys are ever trying to get Sunbeam, here are some hot tips. Do the target practices and the storm chests. Loot around the map, especially if you're somebody who uses coconuts. You'll find yourself with a lot of extra weapons that you can just recycle for Sunbeam. Really, really good tactic. A lot of people get into the stuck habit of the old advice of searching in caves. I've given that advice in my like how to get every item video, but that was like 3 years ago. I was less experienced. Really, you almost want to avoid caves because they're super inefficient for getting Sunbeam, and you can always recycle weapons to get the Sunbeam that you need. Target practice is super easy with a shotgun, or if you have any battle royale experience, you can probably do it with a pistol. It's definitely the way to go. And yeah, just crystal encampments, crystal anomalies, you can get Sunbeam, you know, you can work on that. And I think this is a great example here of just how much the Xenon bow is struggling. A lot of people don't actually know this, but the Xenon bow is, I think, the 8th or 9th highest damage bow in the game, which is out of 12, so not that high. You can see, this is single crit damage, of course, but stacked party. Pretty sure there's boom base going on, maybe. Yeah, there is. I've got totally rocket out active, and that smasher just did not die. So yeah, I'll include the footage we got here against this mini boss, but unless we get the exact same mini boss next game, it's not even going to be a comparison. And Storm God or somebody's using a minigun, it's fine. There's no Aewol-ri's taking care of it, because you can see I am not helping in this fight. And like I said earlier, this is not a scientific test. I'm just feeling it out, trying out Sunbeam versus Brightcore, seeing what the difference is, and going off of that. But saying that much, I will say that now that the mini boss is pretty much dead here, I think we saw what we need to see from the Sunbeam copy. So I'm gonna load up another game, and actually no, I did this in my Heartbreaker video. Link to that down below. I might as well just switch to the Brightcore copy right now, you know, seeing as we are using the exact same loadout. Let's just see how it compares. Just shoot some stuff, and you can see it's actually getting kills. Enemies are dying in sort of the expected amount of time, believe it or not. We're two-shotting the fatties just like we were before. The propane didn't die, but we didn't crit, so that's not really a fair comparison. The nurse is dead. The propane died in a scenario that it might not have, considering the fire rate on this is significant. For those who don't know, the fire rate for bows is the draw speed. So basically, you won't reload faster, but you will draw the bow back quicker. And 10% quicker means you could just fire 10% more shots, which if you're basically getting an extra hit. Every 10 times a Sunbeam with a shot, you would be shooting 11 times with Brightcore the copy. That's actually why we recommend the Storm King's Fist to be Brightcore in the Storm King fight, believe it or not, because the horn on the Storm King horn, it's actually elemental, or no, environmental, sorry. It's basically a physical car door is essentially what you're smacking, and Sunbeam does not apply to that. So if you're not getting any Sunbeam bonus from your melee weapons in the Storm King fight, you might as well just use Brightcore, because you'll swing 10% faster. It's not a lot, mind you. In a normal fight, you'll swing a dozen times, and it's not that much, but a free extra hit when the Sunbeam copy costs more, has less durability, and otherwise wouldn't be helping you, right? Like, why not just get all the bonuses? More durability, faster swing speed. So I'm not gonna lie. Right now, I'm weirdly impressed. We don't have nearly as many big targets as before. We need to hop into another game to know kind of for sure here, but Brightcore copy's holding up a lot better than expected. And if there are any enemies struggling, mind you, these are 130 copies, so you can always supercharge a Xenon bow. That's highly recommended. It's one of the top weapons recommended to supercharge for a number of reasons. It's a weapon that's low damage, as mentioned. It's single element energy, which means you're not going to have to supercharge multiple copies to cover the whole field. And it's an awesome weapon, so why not make it stronger? So interesting so far. Let's hop in game again and just see how it does. All right, game 2 begins. We got some 160 enemies, and yeah, the wolves are helping me on that one, so the data is going to be a little corrupted there, but I do have an encampment that we can shoot at, so let's go over here. I'm kind of excited about this, honestly. Like, it's an exciting topic to consider. Hey, the Xenon bow, everybody's favorite weapon, the one that we all have upgraded, maxed out, supercharged, no doubt, or at least it's everybody's first pick, might be better Brightcore. And it's weird because I trust the numbers. Simply on paper, a Sunbeam copy will be better in most scenarios. I mentioned earlier in the video that, like, there are so many factors: nurses, healing death burst, varying teammates, elements, not always hitting a headshot. There's just so much to consider. But look at that. See? Half damage with a crit, and then when I don't crit, Affliction just finishes it off. I don't think a Sunbeam copy would have been faster there. In fact, because of the damage dealt, I think the fire rate on the Brightcore copy made up for it. But I don't want to abandon my thought. Because of all the factors in the game, I do feel like Sunbeam would suit more scenarios. But the idea that Brightcore could be better, and right now it does not feel any different. See, we didn't kill it in one shot, but that was a non-crit. I don't think a Sunbeam copy would have killed in one shot. I mean, look at that. So long as you crit, it looks like we're doing the same amount of damage. So, like, I want to believe what I think I know about Sunbeam, but I cannot dispute what's happening in front of me, that the Brightcore copy is doing great. Here, we could just go through another encampment. This is one of the best things about the Xenon bow. I talk about its low damage, but I'm ignoring the fact that the reason it's so popular is because of that pierce. You can go through so many targets. I'm basically killing 2 mist monsters at once. Look, I'm learning. Look, if you put walls up, enemies can't shoot at you. And we're using a weapon that can pierce walls. So, oh my god, love lobbers need to go away. You can see, you know, less damage, but it didn't even matter. Like, you guys saw me handle encampments like that in the last game with the Sunbeam copy. And right there, I was trying to line up both of them. Affliction just finished it off regardless. So, I'm basically having the same kill times, if not faster, because I can shoot quicker, than the Sunbeam copy. But I'm getting more durability, and I said economic earlier because I believe Brightcore is easier to get than Sunbeam. That might be a misnomer because most people use Sunbeam, so Brightcore is something that stacks up your inventory. But if you are somebody who has an inventory full of Sunbeam weapons, like me personally, then you might have a lot more Brightcore just sitting around. And switching your top weapon to Brightcore might be a very fair way to use it, because this is doing great. Hey, we finally had a smasher. You guys can see in the chat of this game that we did have a smasher by the defense, but it died when they were building it, and I felt bad, but that's okay. Now, I wanted to mention something else as well, that Brightcore might be doing great in this instance with, like, a higher damaging weapon like this. I know the bow is lower damaging on the tier list of bows, but in general, the Xenon bow is doing a significant amount more than, like, a regular SMG. I think for more faster firing weapons like SMGs or ARs, Sunbeam will still be better, but this is definitely changing my perspective of, like, breakpoints in this game and what weapons might actually be okay with Brightcore. Like, I know doing more damage is intoxicating, and plenty of people will ignore this experience I'm having here, but I don't know. I might start leveling up a Brightcore copy of this weapon to be 144. I guess I already did level it up. I just need to give it superchargers now, so something worth thinking about. I'm gonna kill up these enemies real quick here, and then I think we'll get the defense going. See how this does against some more 250 power level enemies. All right, here we go. Hopefully we get some big targets right away. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to pause right away. There we go, 250. So I don't have any traps down like last time. I am being just a leech of a teammate here. But with Battle Beat active, yeah, doing plenty of damage. It looks like we're doing 820-some thousand damage instead of whatever it was before, 860. I think on a normal enemy it was like 900,000 damage. So we're losing 100k on a crit, but you can see it doesn't really matter. You know, if we're critting, headshotting anyway, you can see Affliction and general teammates killed them as well. Now, it affects my testing to have teammates, drones, and everything happening here, but I also feel like a scientific situation is not perfectly accurate, ironically. You know, a scientific situation would have, you know, controlled factors just to get true testing, but this game is chaotic. You're never going to have the exact same experience twice. You're going to have different spawn locations, different enemies spawning at different times. You're going to have spawns flipping. Teammates are going to do things that you can't control, and I feel like that's why this is the way I'm doing things today. Obviously, I can't set up a scientific situation because of what I just said, and we have no creative testing grounds and save the world as of recording. I say that because maybe someday in the future we'll have like a sandbox mode for this game and we can really get to the nit and gritty of these things, but until that exists, I mean, hopping in game and just seeing how it does is just the way I have to do things, and honestly, I'm impressed. If you would have told me, like, this is a blind test, compare and contrast between Brightcore and Sunbeam, which one are you using? I'm not sure I would always know, and that's a really weird experience to have. So yeah, I'm gonna, oh, there we go, look for some bigger targets, because I kind of want to kill off the Smasher, see what I can do there, but I also want to go back to the Sunbeam copy real quick here and just compare. You can see I'm struggling, but so is the Sunbeam copy. Like, both the Xenon bow versions are going to struggle because of the low single target damage. It's not going to be great either way. So let's go back to the Sunbeam copy with a little Ben's Warcry action and just see how it feels. You know, let's just go back and forth. So now we're going to Sunbeam. I'm immediately noticing the draw speed. Let me get something to shoot at where I can really... Oh, wow. Yeah, it's like sluggish now. It's not too bad. It's not a big difference. It does have a fire rate perk on it after all, but you can probably notice that this just feels slower, and the damage is better. Things are dying more consistently, but I've also just started shooting, so the fatties, okay, we're not getting one-shotted before. I don't believe the Brightcore copy was one-shotting fatties with like a headshot crit, so that's definitely something worth considering. The Smasher, this is a physical copy. Earlier I was shooting at elemental ones. You can see, like I said, even the Sunbeam copy is still going to struggle. Without Toy Rockin' Out active, it's, yeah, just at the mercy of my teammates to help me out there. But we can aim against these guys. You can see I'm doing more like 60% rather than 50 earlier. I'm eyeballing that, of course, but it looks like the Sunbeam copy, obviously, is doing, like, more damage. But what I'm referring to is it looks like it's doing significantly more damage, where you see the Brightcore copy might not have killed that Taker in one shot like that. I don't know. It's so close that it's shaking me, you know, because I was 100% on board. Like, yeah, Sunbeam's better, not even a discussion. But this is shaking my opinion of that. You can see the Affliction is going to finish him off. I didn't even look, but let's see. The nurses were dying super easy, barely an inconvenience last time with the Brightcore copy. And the Sunbeam copy with a nice little crit is doing more. We got the Flinger here earlier. Let's go back to the Brightcore copy for this and just see, you know, get that damage in there. I wonder if the improved crit rating applies to weapons when I switch. I might have bugged the game, though. I actually have never encountered that scenario, as I don't typically switch back and forth between weapons that I'm holding. Let's see if we can get another Flinger, maybe a nurse. Apparently I can't hit a shot, but yeah, still one-shotting. So if you're one-shotting a normal enemy like that, then there's functionally no difference. If you're one-shotting just like you were before with the Xenon bow Sunbeam, then there's functionally no damage difference, obviously. Like, any extra damage you do after that one hit is just completely wasted output, so it's something interesting to consider. All right, still using... I don't even know what I'm on right now. Without telling me, I think I'm on Brightcore. I forgot what I was using for a second, and that's probably a good sign. I don't know what I was shooting at there. I ran out of big targets, so I'll tune in when we have something like that. You know, just hanging out with the stream while I was killing stuff, I am just marveling at how, against normal targets, the difference is indistinguishable. We're just clearly one-shotting everything. Enemies are dying. It's like, I'm looking for big targets to see the difference between Sunbeam and Brightcore, but like, if this weapon's already struggling against big targets anyway, it seems like the Brightcore copy is just better. I mean, it's just like, you know, you're shooting faster and you're saving more on durability. So, you know, if it makes no difference versus the bigger targets, that's the only thing left to consider. All right, I'm tuning back in because we should be getting a mini boss soon. They usually spawn around the 10... Oh, my teammates were already killing it. That did not show up on my radar. Huh. Okay, well, I guess we're not going to be comparing the mini-boss this time around. It was not on my map, but I was wondering what all three of my teammates were doing. Ooh, look at that. This is just the beauty of the Xenon bow. This is the beauty of a Xenon bow. Look at that. Just shooting through long, straight sight lines, essentially one-shotting everything. That guy got hit by Pharah damage. I'm pretty sure that second Mist Monster had 90% of its health taken from Pharah branching out the damage. That is really nice. And I don't think Toy Rocket Out's going to be enough to keep me alive here, so I can do a couple of campfires here, because I'm really liking this position. I don't want to move it. This would be a terrible location for a thumbnail, seeing as the lighting on this is just awful. But for the gameplay, this is exactly what I want. You know, this is just a Brightcore copy. You know, I feel like this gets mixed up a lot, where people... They think that Brightcore is bad or something, and that's kind of a miscommunication, in my opinion. I think it's directly inferior to Sunbeam on most weapons, but it's not bad. 20% less damage is still doing tons of damage. I mean, especially in the end game with a team like this, I'm obviously doing hundreds of thousands of damage. If I'm shooting through multiple crowds of enemies, like I'm doing right here, that casual shot, as I'm talking, was probably millions of damage. So it's not bad. It's just that most people default to Sunbeam being better, and in this case, I'm really not sure. I think we've seen enough to draw a conclusion here. I honestly can't say for sure. 2 missions back to back is just not enough data, but it's been enough for me to shake my resolve, and I think it'd be fun late game just to start spending superchargers on a second Xenon Bow copy and just play with myself, where I just switch back and forth between the weapons and see, like, hey, can you tell? Can you tell? Can you see the difference? Are there commenters even paying attention to the video anymore because I said play with myself and their mind just went awry? Like, are these weapons really so different? Maybe Brightcore is just strictly better if you're getting more durability and a faster fire rate, and it's more convenient to use because missing shots happens. You just watch it happen live. So maybe fixing your aim more casually is something that you value. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Let me know if this was like a surprise to you guys as well. I think this was a cool thing to test out, and maybe I should do it on other weapons, because I feel like a lot of shotguns could have a very similar situation as this, and it could be worth checking out further. So yeah, subscribe if you're new, Twitch link down below. I'll see you guys in the next one, and enjoy the rest of your day. And then